And the Vikings organization appears to be in a bad place. During the combine last week, Peterson's agent Ben Jogra had to be separated from a member of Minnesota's front office during a heated verbal altercation. According to sources, his agent engaged in a heated exchange with Vikings Vice President of Football Operations, Rob Brzezinski, during which the agent made it clear that Peterson would never play there again. Former Tampa Bay general manager, as well as our colleague Mark Dominic, apparently intervened. He separated the two from this heated exchange. Stephen A., how do you think this will play out?
I think it's possible that Adrian Peterson could end up being traded. He's clearly appearing as if he's trying to force his way out of Minnesota. I think you're going to see, from what I'm hearing, teams in Indy, Tampa, Arizona, San Francisco, somebody like that. Not the Cowboys, Skip. I don't think he's going to end up there. But the reality is that I think here's the thing that's bothering me about this whole Adrian Peterson fiasco. You got an agent fighting with a Vikings executive. According to what my sources tell me, it's based on things that transpired before the whole child abuse scandal came down the pike. Apparently folks in upper management talking behind his back, talking about him, in whatever capacity. It's one of those situations where I think Adrian Peterson just needs to pause for a second. And here's what I mean by this. I know that it's not good for anybody to go behind your back to be the two-faced wusses that they may be, talking behind your back while smiling in your face. There's absolutely nothing in this world that irritates me more. I'm that type of attitude. I got the type of attitude, Skip. If we at war, say we at war, and I'm good with it. It's the people that smile in your face that make you think we ain't at war when in fact they're engaging in warlike tactics against you. That's the kind of stuff that nauseates me. But if it's straight up, I have no problem with it. So I can understand how Adrian Peterson would have a huge problem. The issue, however, is this. According to folks, he loves Coach Zimmer, loves the coaching staff, loves a lot of his teammates. Those are the guys that you're dealing with on an everyday basis. So my attitude is, what's the problem? The reality is that before this whole child abuse scandal came down the pike, you didn't appear to be complaining about playing for the Vikings at that particular moment in time. As far as I'm concerned, the second they put Christian Pond as your quarterback, that should have been enough for you to want to leave Minnesota. Or anybody else for that matter, before Teddy Bridgewater arrived. I mean, talk about me since Brett Favre, obviously. All I'm trying to say is that when you look at Minnesota, the fact is that there were a bevy of reasons for Adrian Peterson to want to leave in the past. He didn't appear to want to leave then. So what's the issue now? The issue now is that things have elevated because you had to go through this ordeal. And all I'm saying is that the people may have turned against you. People may have felt differently about you once it came down the pike and were willing to articulate those thoughts to others, and it got back to you. I understand the frustration involved, but can you definitively say another organization would not have done that? We are talking about child abuse. And even though people have their feelings about it, whatever those feelings may be, and, doing my radio show and getting calls from listeners and stuff like that, you see how divided people were about the whole child abuse issue, what they term to be child abuse or whatever the case may be. The fact is that the kind of stuff that was done to you in Minnesota could probably be done to you for any organization that you go to. So I just think he needs to pump the brakes just a little bit and understand that what he wants is utopia. What he's experiencing is pretty much par for the course, no matter where he goes. And this perhaps may be a bigger deal. This may not be as big of a deal as he's making it out to be.
So my question is, how much of this is genuine bitterness on the part of Adrian and his advisors, and how much is just wanting out of Minnesota? Because, look, all those teams you mentioned, no doubt they would line up to bid on Adrian Peterson. They would have to bid a draft pick to see if they could pull off the trade to get Adrian in their camp. But my point is, and it's been this way from the start, I'm pretty sure, this is just an educated guess, I'm pretty sure that Adrian Peterson's heart would be with the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, he grew up in Palestine, Texas. I believe he would love to finish his career running behind that offensive line for that team and that stadium in that state, because he's a Cowboy fan through and through. He grew up loving that football team, and he's about to turn 30 years of age on March 21st. And wouldn't it be a grand finale of a finish to his career if he could end up with Dallas? Now, is that realistic or not? That's up for debate. But you tell me before I proceed. Do you think it's genuine bitterness, or are they trying to act and talk their way out of Minneapolis?
I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I haven't spoken to Adrian Peterson directly, so it would be hard for me to say, Skip. But based on his reaction and his agent's reaction, I'm leaning towards thinking it's just that you want out, as opposed to it being genuine bitterness, because you get along with the coaching staff, you get along with the players. You don't have to deal with upper management on an everyday basis. It's hard for me to believe that this garners all of that. If you want out, you just want out. Can't blame him for wanting out of Minnesota.
No, I can't either. So let's say that Minnesota, which now has his rights, he's under contract for not 1 or 2, but 3 more years.
There's 3? I thought it was 2.
3. Yeah. I got 3 on my. Yeah, they owe him $15.4 million this year. This is against the cap. Then 15 the next year, and then 16 the next year. So my point is, if Minnesota digs in and just says, nope, you're our property, you're going to play for the Minnesota Vikings. They owe him at age 30 $15.4 million. That's a lot of money to pay for a 30-year-old running back, even though we've all made the point he missed almost all of last year, just played on opening day. So, is it possible that they would say, that's just too much money. That's a little too rich for our blood. We've got some bad blood with him to start with. Maybe our fans are kind of iffy about him because of all the scandal that we went through last year. So maybe we should cut bait. Now let's bring the Cowboys into play. Would Adrian Peterson renegotiate what's left on his contract to go elsewhere? I don't know that. But again, I'm going to refer to Don Van Natta, his ESPN The Magazine piece that I've talked about several times. Adrian Peterson called Jerry Jones in his box at Jerry World via a cell phone of somebody there that Adrian knew, and whoever it was brought the cell phone to Jerry and said, hey, Adrian Peterson wants a word with you. And according to Don, and he's the best, that Adrian was saying, hey, I would love to be a Cowboy. So at least that, as gray area as that phone call was for Jerry to take the call.
Yeah, and what did Jerry say? He was responsible. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, let's see what we can do. Okay, you're borderline tampering there, even though Adrian initiated the phone call. But at least we know that. We know that Adrian was trying to plant the little bug in Jerry's ear. Hey, I would love to play for the Dallas Cowboys. So now, what draft pick would Dallas give up in a bidding war with other teams to get Adrian? Because they could decide, well, we still love DeMarco. Could we sign him at a price we could live with to get Dez and DeMarco under our salary cap? And remember, there's still this option. I love Todd Gurley. I know he got hurt near the end of the year, but if he's 100%, you want to talk about beast mode. Todd Gurley out of Georgia is beast mode. Dallas could take him near the bottom of the, their picks late in the first round. They could just go fresh with the kid and see what happens. Listen, this is a bad man. So my point is, I'm not sure. There are a lot of moving parts here, and Jerry's going to have to make some tough calls. But the first call would have to be, how much less than $15.4 million would Adrian take just to finish his career with the Dallas Cowboys? Would he give a home state discount to Jerry Jones? I'm guessing he would, but I could be wrong about that.
Well, number one, Todd Gurley is no beast mode. Don't ever mention his name in that regard. I don't know
about that.
He can play. He can play. But if you can't handle, the physical grind of college football,
well, he just got
I want to see what you're going to do. Well, I'm just saying, he runs high, Skip. He runs high, and his legs are a question mark. That's all I'm saying. I know he's got the skills, the talent, but I'm talking about beast mode. Marshawn Lynch runs over you. Todd Gurley, listen, let's wait and see. I know he's got the skills. I'm questioning the durability on the next level.
All right.
So that's number one. Number two, listen, from what I'm hearing, Adrian Peterson, the Cowboys are not an option. Those other teams that I mentioned in Arizona, Indy, Tampa, San Francisco are a better option than the Dallas Cowboys. We'll have to wait and see how true that is. But in the end, what it comes down to is this. Regardless of what anybody feels, Adrian Peterson found himself in that whole child abuse scandal. Yep. That's not to knock him. That's not to denigrate him like some people are going to do. We understand that in some people's eyes in America, it's a debatable issue, even though for most of us, it's not. But in the end, he found himself in that position, and advertisers and sponsors were about to turn their backs on the Minnesota Vikings. And you got to own that if you're Adrian Peterson. You got to own that part. So if you want to leave, go ahead and leave. But to sit here and your agents fighting and all of this noise is being made, you know, it just brings attention to the fact that it is for Adrian Peterson. And then you find yourself asking, why is Adrian Peterson in any kind of fight, directly or indirectly, after what he's been through? Regardless of who it's for, this brother needs to get back on the football field, because you had some people out there saying he should never play in the NFL again.
Yeah.
So if you got to go through that, maybe you should just pump the brakes, try to go be quiet about it, get the hell out of Minnesota, and then move on, as opposed to fighting, because ultimately, no matter how right he is, you're going to have a large populace saying, why are you fighting over anything as it pertains to the NFL after what you put folks through? Because that's how people are looking at him. They're saying, you put folks through that. That's what they're saying.
All right, you leave it there?
Yep.
Okay, so let's head over to the Twitter, because we're trying to figure out where, in fact, Adrian Peterson will end up. This relationship clearly is not in a bad place. So log on to Twitter and tell us where you think you'll find Adrian Peterson when the season starts. Vikings, Cowboys, or other. Use the hashtag AD versus Vikes. We will have the results a little later on in the show.
I'll bet it's Dallas.
You think it's Dallas?
Yeah.
What about that? What do you think of that? Ooh. It's that time of year again. Folks are storming the court. Is it time for the NCAA to step in? The thoughts after the break. Madness, folks. Madness.